Hello, 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 beautiful, and welcome to Madison Reed's very own hair color house party. We love doing this with you guys because we are coming live from our kitchens, from our bathrooms, from our spare rooms, coloring our hair together as a community. And this is what we absolutely love to do. Today, we have something very special because we're going to be looking at Madison Reed Lightworks, one of our most popular and this time of year, most wanted techniques and tricks that you can use on your very own hair in your very own house. So we're going to be hearing all about that. But we've also got double the fun because we have somebody special with us today. We're very happy to partner with STYLECASTER, a fashion, beauty, and lifestyle hub that invites readers to discover and express themselves. Outside opinions be damned. So tonight we have Deputy Editor Alana Peden here. Here she is.
Hey everyone, I'm so excited to be here with you tonight.
She's got some special information for us because when we're coloring our own hair at home, it's a very important time for us to have some self-care. So she's got some tips and tricks that she'll be able to share with us on how to spend some of our time when we're not thinking about above the hairline, perhaps thinking about below the hairline. So we're here to answer your questions and make sure that you leave here feeling absolutely comfortable and confident at being able to achieve those fabulous results at home. For everybody who's here tonight, what we're going to be doing is donating $1 to Direct Relief because they do so much good in the world. And at Madison Reed, we love partnering with people that do good in the world. So all of you, cameras on for the contest. We're going to be giving away what our model, Siobhan, is using tonight. Our very own Lightworks kit. Hey, Siobhan.
Hey, hi everyone. Coming to you live from our Baltimore Hub hair color bar here in Towson, Maryland. I'm excited to be with you all tonight.
Excellent. And it looks gorgeous there, Siobhan. We can't wait to see more of it. And your hair's looking lovely. It's going to look even better.
It's going to get better, yeah.
So Siobhan and I are going to be here to answer all of your questions. We know you've got tons of them. So this is how we're going to do it. If you're on Facebook Live, just type your questions in and our Facebook moderator will get those over to us. If you're on Zoom, try and confine yourself to your hairiest questions, so just one each. And if you don't get your question answered tonight, don't worry, because we're going to put an email up at the end and those questions will go directly to Siobhan. She's a hair color expert. You'll see that in just a second, and she'll be able to answer those for you if we can't get to them here today. So to ask a question, what you're going to need to do is go ahead and rename yourself. You go to your square on Zoom and hit on those 3 little dots, and that will show us what your name is. So you just go ahead and rename yourself. That's important because then when we come to call on you, we can call your name out. And then what you will need to do is we will ask to unmute you. So if you're on your phone, you'll need to rename yourself with the 3 dots on your phone. And on your computer, same deal. To ask a question, and this is the important bit, you need to raise your hand. So on your phone, go to your 3 dots. You'll be able to raise your hand there if you're on Zoom. And if you're on your computer, go down to the bottom of your screen. You'll see the reaction button. Click on that and you'll see to raise your hand there. When you raise your hand, you're going to go in a queue, and then we'll be able to answer your questions as they come to us. So we're going to mute you all now so that we can hear Siobhan, because she has a ton of information. She's one of my favorite people to listen to. So enough from me. Let's listen to what she's got to tell us, because it's a very exciting stuff. Over to you, Siobhan.
Ooh, yay. Thank you. Okay. So tonight I'm going to be highlighting my own hair with all of you and showing you how to do it. And I promise it is easier than you probably think. I think a lot of us can handle roots, maybe doing a gloss at home, but I think highlighting has sounded historically really intimidating for a lot of people. We're going to take that intimidation off the table. You're going to watch me do it first so that you can just like be safe at home and you just watch someone else do it, take the notes, and then you're going to be all set up to do this successfully on your own. I promise we'll take the nerves out of it for you. So I'm going to talk to you mostly while I'm working because I know you want me to just like get to the doing, and I'm going to do that. So I just want to give you a quick overview of my starting point because it's an important distinction to make. Clearly, I'm already highlighted. Yeah, like I've got some old highlights in here, but you can see a lot of brown root coming in, and you can see that all my highlights have kind of dropped down. If I comb through and open it up, you can definitely see, oh yeah, big kind of dark patches in there. That's what I'm addressing today. So I'm not just adding highlights for the first time, I'm revamping highlights. So the highlights I have now will get lighter and brighter, and then the stuff that's not already light will have a little bit of like something new added to it. So it might not be like, whoa, dramatic day and night, no highlights, now highlights, but it'll be a freshened up of this look, and it'll be dramatic enough, promise me, there's a lot to do. So this is what we're starting from, old kind of grown out stuff with some blonde at the bottom. And let's vamp it up. Okay, so I'm using the Madison Reed Lightworks kit. This is what it looks like. If you get the box from Ulta, for instance, you'll get a printed box like this. And if you order from our website, you will get our shipper kit. It's a 2-part process. It's got everything you need in it. And I'll break it down as I go, but here, just to show you a real quickie view. Side number 1, I know there's a little glare from the light, but I think you can see all right here. Side number 1 has all the highlighting stuff. This is what you're going to use to actually lighten. This is your clay-based lightener. That's really, really cool. You paint it on the surface of your hair and it doesn't move. It's amazing. There's a bond-building cleansing treatment included in here. And then toning glaze. And this is the part that you get at salons, but you never get at home. This is why at-home salons or at-home highlights never look quite as dressed up and good as salon highlights because nobody tones them for you. So we have included that for you, and I'm going to tell you about that. You're not going to see me do it because, you know, I would have to process for 40 minutes, jump in the shower, jump out and tone it. We don't have all that time. But you are going to get an after photo included in your follow-up email, and it'll show you. And really all you do with the toner is you mix them, put it all over your towel dried hair after you shampoo your lightener out. It goes all over, it stays on 20 minutes. So I think you need this instruction more than you need that instruction, because I promise you can handle that part. Okay, so step number 1, we're gonna start around the face. So you always wanna highlight the areas around your face first because they sit on the longest. And most of us want our lightest, brightest pieces around our cheekbones and eyes. We wanna illuminate and open up the face a little. So you'll see this in the PDF instructions that you get with this kit, but just to kind of hear it verbally, and you'll see me kind of pop back and forth because I've got a mirror behind where my camera is, but you're gonna take well, let me back up. Part your hair wherever you really part it in real life. So I'm a center parter. So I'm gonna just let my hair be parted right where it is. If you know you're a side parter and that's what you do all the time, highlight your hair with the side part in. If you're a back and forther or wherever the wind blows, then, you know, center will give you some versatility. So I'm going to do that. And then we're going to take a nice diagonal section going from the part down to sort of the top of the ear. Susan, is that looking clear? Because I can only see myself how I can see myself.
It looks perfect. Of course it does. Just a quick question, because I'm sure that there are people, and we get this question all the time. Your hair isn't its natural color, apart from the highlight, is it?
I'm sorry, my what color? No, great call out / question. My hair is not its natural from birth color. It's pretty close to, this is sort of the color that it usually is, but no, this is permanent color treated because I do a little gray coverage system on the side. So yeah.
And I think that's important because sometimes we feel that we can't really do balayage unless we have natural hair. But actually with this technique, you can absolutely do it on natural hair and colored hair. You can have it on dark hair, on lighter hair. If your hair's all over blonde, we can use Lightworks. So if we do what I would call a global color in a salon situation, when would you do your global color and when would you do your Lightworks?
Oh, that's such a good question. So this is super versatile and you can do this. By the way, quick timeout. I got so excited about parting my hair that I didn't mix the product for you. But all you do is you've got your lightning activator bottle and you take this tiny cute little silver tube that says Lightworks lightning cream and you put one in here and then you shake, shake, shake a lot because this is a clay-based lightener in here and you really don't want any clumps because it's got to come out of this nozzle. So I'm going to multitask shake while I answer that question. So you basically whenever and however you want is the short answer. So if you do an all over color, like if you're doing it for the first time, you would do that first, get that base color that you want, and then paint in the highlights that you want over it. The cool thing about doing highlights like this that aren't all the way up to the root is they're kind of purposely painted on to have a soft grow out. So you could touch up your roots like 20 times in between ever doing your highlights again. Like you're not locked into maintaining like roots. Now I got to do my highlights again. Now I got to do my roots again. They're meant to sort of like grow out softly. So you have a lot of options, especially for those of us who are labor reluctant when it comes to their beauty routine.
So would you do your color 2 days before, a week before? Does it matter?
I mean, I probably wouldn't do more than 2 days, 2 days or so. You wouldn't need to. If you are going into a hair color bar, having somebody else do it for you, they can even do your roots and highlights at the same time. But when you're at home doing it on yourself, it's probably best to just space it out by a couple of days. Okay, so really quickly here, I'm mixed and ready to go. I want to point this out so that if this happens to you, you don't freak out and think anything is wrong or that you've done anything wrong or that your product is defective. Everything's fine. But this is going to start expanding in the bottle because that's what lightener does. And you might notice it come out a little bit of the tip of the bottle. No biggie. I just put it face down in my bowl. And if you want to, you can set it in your sink face down so that any product that leaks is happening in the bowl and not on your stuff. Okay, I'm going in for section number 1. So I did from the parting down to the ear in sort of a diagonal section, and I'm pulling this section forward in front of my face, on the side of my face here. Here's the important things for you to be on the lookout for when you're doing this on your own hair. This needs to be thick enough that you can't see through it. Okay, so maybe about like a 1/2 inch to 1 inch here, and pull it forward so that you can't see through it. If there's holes that you can see through, then the lightener can fall through and it'll give you sort of bleed marks. So it's really important that you give yourself, think of it like you're painting on a little, an easel that you're creating for yourself or a canvas that you're creating for yourself. Okay, so you're gonna hold that nice and taut. And then I'm taking my product here, and Susan, let me know if you can see this okay. And I'm squeezing the product on the Wishbone applicator. I know this Wishbone applicator intimidates a lot of people, but I promise you it's easier than you think.
Perfect. Just tilt that a little bit towards us, Yvonne.
Like that?
Fabulous. Gorgeous.
Okay, and there we go. All right, so here it is. It's kind of the consistency of toothpaste, if you can sort of see it in the profile view. And then what you do is you take the Wishbone and you use the arm to outline. You see how I put sort of like stamped the shape of that V right on my hair, you kind of emulating the tool. And then I'm going to do that on this side too. Same idea. So I'm going to just take the second arm of the Wishbone tool and lay it ever so gently up against the surface of the hair to get that second part of that V in. I know it looks a little strange right now, but then you've got your product on the base of the Wishbone and you fill in that gap and you just connect them into a V shape. Can you see that? And then right here, I'm just gonna even that up and kind of paint up against the hair strand to soften this and diffuse the line. So essentially what I'm doing is I've got one line in here, one arm of the V here, and I'm gonna go in on this side, and I've got the other arm of the V there, and then I'm painting more product in the middle to sort of connect them. And I'm holding this nice and taut the whole time. And I'm using the bristles of this brush to very softly smooth the surface. So it should look almost like kind of snow on the surface of the hair. And here, as I get toward my face, I'm taking the drier tips of this Wishbone applicator, and I'm using it to kind of detail the hair and push it up. I'm like whispering it up so that it gets a soft, diffused line. So there's no hard line where it begins and ends. Okay, does that make sense? Can you see that sort of up against my hand? So I've got this nice deep V where it's higher up around my face, because typically that's where we want to see more splash of lightness. And then back here, it's a little further back. And see how it's not exactly like the most graceful line, right? I can see that in the camera, in the mirror. And I just softly go in with this Wishbone tool and buff that out and soften that out. Holding this nice and taut. And then I'm gonna put a little bit more product on here so that we get a little bit more product buildup. How this stuff works is as it sits on the surface of your hair, like I can leave it alone now, as it sits on the surface of your hair, it air dries. And so the outer part dries out and keeps the inside active and working and lightening your hair. So it's sort of like really thick icing on your hair, and it stays where you put it. I can move around and it's not gonna go anywhere. It's totally fine. But I could leave this like this, but I want a little more lift. Okay, so I'm going for a little more pow. So I want to put more product on here to make sure that keeps working, because the thicker it is, the better it'll keep working. So I'm going to go in with my second kind of layer. And Susan, if you wanted to take a question, I'll just keep working with my hands and.
Perfect. I'd just like to remind everyone that if we are giving away today one of these Lightworks kits. They come in 5 different variants, so you can have the one that absolutely suits your hair. But in order to be eligible for that, you need to put your cameras on. So if you've not got your camera on and you would like to win a Lightworks kit, please go ahead and do that. So what Siobhan's doing is on the very first section, really applying the lightener, and it looks brilliant. Very, very softly towards the root, and then with a little bit more pressure towards the ends of the hair. And when you do that, this tool is designed to be able to make the hair a little bit lighter on the ends and make it a little bit less light through the root area. So it's looking great, Siobhan. And it's super easy to work with the Wishbone once you get the hang of it, isn't it?
You know what? It's super easy. And let me tell you, every single time that I talk to clients about doing this, and I teach this to our colorists nationwide in our hair color bars, and I promise you, every single person, even the most masterful licensed colorists, they see this new tool and it looks a little weird. And I get it. It is. Every new thing that you try is a little awkward. You're like, I don't get it. Is it a stamp? Do I pull? Like, what's happening here? Right? But once you understand it and break it down, by section 2, it becomes an extension of your hand. It really will. What you have to do is break up with the idea that it has to go like just 1, 2, 3. Once you're like, oh, I get it. Okay, you can use these little tips to kind of push it around and smooth it out, and this makes sense. You make it kind of your own, and then you'll feel more comfortable with it. And here's the other thing. Take your time. Kind of go slow. Like, get your first section looking right, get it the way you want it. You see, I didn't just like blow through that, right? And then you're like, okay, now I want all the other sections to look like that. Got it. Nothing is gonna happen. You know, if you take a little while to do this, the lightener just kind of dries and stops working, and it'll be okay. But just, you know, make it, and it's kind of meditative too. You're like painting and it's kind of fun. Yeah.
So
okay, I'm gonna switch sides.
Siobhan, as you're working, I'm gonna pepper you with some questions. So we have a question from Audrey from Facebook Live. Hello, Audrey. We're very happy you're here with us. She's asking, can you use a bowl and brush to paint instead of the wishbone?
Well, I mean, I guess you technically could, but I will tell you this. So first of all, we only sell it with the wishbone. So if you're buying our kit, it's already going to come with the tool. I would, however, you know, any way that you physically get this on your hair, it's going to get on your hair. But I'm going to tell you, this was so masterfully crafted, and the thought behind this is really designed to help you with sections of this size and help you get that V shape that is like really native to balayage. Try it first. I would say try it first. And if you're like, okay, it's not my favorite, I don't want to do it, and then you want to think outside the box, I respect that. But I would encourage you to give this a try, because the bristles on this are so soft. It's really meant to lay the lightener on the surface of the hair and not push it in, kind of the way a tint brush does. And it really helps you prevent bleeds. I mean, it's like, I'm a professional colorist and I love this thing for highlights. So you can think outside the box, of course, but you're going to get this with the kit anyway. And I would say do yourself a favor and give it the old college try.
So I would absolutely agree with that. And I think the way that this works best is to do, as Siobhan's doing, what it's great at is really putting the color on the surface of the hair. And that's what the secret to balayage is. So remember, this isn't conventional highlights. It's not like the type of tinfoil highlights that you might be used to getting in a salon situation. It's much more about this kind of soft sweep. And actually that's what balayage means in French. It's a sweep of color. And you can see where Siobhan's using the wishbone, it's really brushing it on this top surface of the hair and being able to kind of work it on the surface up towards the root area, and then apply a little bit more pressure as we come down. And what that does is it gives a very soft effect through the root and then a much stronger effect through the ends. And when we see that on darker hair, which is exactly what I've got, it has exactly the same effect. Well, I would say though, good call on the bowl and brush, because if your hair is short, what you might find is it's a bit tricky to use a wishbone. So if you have short hair, this is what we give you. It's our little brush, which is a short hair applicator. And what this does is on shorter hair, it will help to actually push the color using the brush, push it into the hair. And that's a different way of applying the lightener than using the wishbone, because the wishbone pushes it, really brushes it on the top surface. A brush will push it in further. If that's what you're looking to do, cool, have at it. We give you the wishbone because what we're giving you something is to work with a very soft, conventional balayage type of effect, where you've got lighter towards the end, softer towards the root, and a very soft grow out. And that's exactly what it'll help you to do. So I hope that answers your question, Audrey, darling. If you do have short hair, you're going to get one of these in your kit rather than the wishbone.
And Susan, can I interject here real quick? Because I had sort of a real life scenario happen that I think would be interesting to share with everyone. And I want to not correct it before we see this. So I want to show you like what happens if you kind of color outside the lines a little, which could happen. So I've gone in and I've put this sort of V shape in. And what we can see this will look like is when this dries, you have to imagine they are drying and then like laying at its natural fall. You're going to have more of a splash of, light here, and then it's going to be more saturated toward the bottom. I've got my line up here, the arm to my V, but do you see how I have this little mess up right there? Like it looks a little bit kind of chunky in that one spot, not as soft as everything around it. Okay, step one, don't panic. Step two, just have a little cotton round or cotton ball with some water on it, or a little bit like a white towel that's not going to be adverse to lightener. And then you can actually just use that as an eraser and buff down or soften up anything that you've done. So if you have a little, you know, mark you didn't mean to make, it's okay. You just go through and just softly remove it, and then you can keep working. So I wanted to point that out because I didn't want you to think, you know, that if you don't do this perfectly, you're going to be doomed to a mistake. As long as you kind of, you know, act quickly to remove that little spot, you're going to be just fine.
It's looking really good, Siobhan. As you're working, do you mind if I take a question? Because we've got a couple of people who have questions. Okay, so let's see. Beta's mum or Beta's mum? I'm going to ask to unmute you, darling. I can see you laughing at me. I hope that's the right.
Hi.
Hi, are you there?
I am there. Can you see and hear me okay?
Oh, yes, my love.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I just wanted to say a big thank you for you guys doing this. I was a little late to the party because my hair had to get pretty bad in the pandemic before I was willing to give it a try. And I've had a lot of fun playing with your glosses. So my hairiest question is really about how can I get creative with the gloss to kind of get the perfect shade for me. And I've tried Miel, which gave me a little bit of too much red for my hair. My hair always wants to go red. And I decided to then go the opposite direction with espresso. And I have highlighted hair, pretty dark hair at the root. And then I typically get the highlights that go all the way up. So not these beautiful balayage that grow out nicely. But I used the espresso and I actually really like the color. I mean, I've gotten so many compliments with it, but it was a little bit shockingly dark for me. So I was wondering if I should like do a little mix together of different glosses, or maybe I should use the hair color therapy mask instead, or just wondering like how you go about doing that, if it's okay to mix those colors together or not.
Oh, what a great question. I love it. I love it. You're like a professional colorist, darling. So short answer, absolutely. You can mix whichever gloss you would like to mix together, Beta's mum. You can do that as much as your heart desires. In fact, what's a lovely mix, because you use the espresso and it might be a little bit dark for you. If you go ahead and mix that with crema, I think you might like that. So crema is equally cool, but it's much, much lighter. And actually, that's the one that we would tend to use if we were a blonde, in fact. So on your dark hair, you're not going to see much. You'll give it a little shine. On your lighter hair, on those highlights, it'll give it some color. So that's a good little mix to know about. The other thing that you might like to use is our color therapy mask, which looks like this. You've seen it on the website, I'm sure. This is one of our newest products. In fact, we launched this the last lot of products that we launched. At the moment, there's 4 colors, but watch this space. There's more coming. And with the color therapy, you can in fact do exactly the same thing, but super, super easy to use, because what we do with that is shampoo and then use it like a conditioner, leave it for 5 minutes, and you can mix and match to your heart's delight. So one of the ones I think for you would be nice would be actually this one, the Dorato. Otherwise, we have Cafe. So Dorato is similar to the Miele that you use, the gloss. It's warmer, it has more gold. The Cafe is more like coffee, obviously, similar to espresso, but because we're leaving it on for 5 minutes, then you'll notice that it won't take your hair as dark. So that's a really cool one. This is the one that I use. I like red in my hair. You might not. I like it. And then of course we can have the not for you. And then we have the Perla, which is like crema, and you can mix those two together. So if you like cool, those are your ones. If you like warm, these are your ones.
Okay, perfect.
So that I think will really help you. Plus, the great thing about that is quick, it's easy, and it makes your hair super shiny, and you can do it in the shower in just 5 minutes. So for somebody like you who likes to experiment, love it. Perfect.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for your question, Beta's mom. Siobhan, how are we doing?
We're doing great. So I wanted to not move on too much because I wanted to do a couple call outs of a few key points as I'm highlighting my own hair. So if you'll notice, we started in the front and then we're working backward, and I'm going back and forth, moving back to each side of my head. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you want the two sides hanging around your face to be sitting there the longest, processing, getting lighter. And then one back on each side will stay the same time, and et cetera, et cetera. So I've done my second piece, and I wanted to point two things out. If you're watching and you've never sort of seen hair painting or balayage before, this might seem a little bit weird, but you notice that we're only painting one side of the hair, right? And so why is that? What's going on? If I lift up the hair and kind of let you see underneath, it's totally dry and dark. Essentially what's happening is that's the low light now. So by just having the piece of hair sit there and hand paint, hand select where the highlight is going to go, where the lights hit, we're emulating the way that light naturally hits hair. So we're emulating the fact that if I was in the sun, that's where the sun reflectivity would be, and that's where my hair would be highlighted. So it's soft and really diffused and modern. And then this becomes the low light. So, and because this is clay based, when I go to put my next section down here, this hair can hit this other hair and it doesn't go anywhere. You see, there's no mess. It's not getting everywhere because it's made of clay. It's staying put. So that's the beauty of doing this, especially when you're doing it on yourself, because we, take a little while. Maybe we're not so graceful doing it. It's fine. So I was going to move over here, but I wanted to kind of point that out for everyone, the dry side. And then the other thing I wanted to show you is, if you'll notice, see how I do just one side all the way down until I get to these ends, and then I double saturate them. Our little technical term for these is like the flippy outy parts. And these little flippy outy parts, you want them double saturated because, well, number one, the ends of your hair are thin. It's very hard to paint just one side of thin ends. Like you can't paint one side of a hair, right? So we double saturate them because it's easy to. And then the other thing is, when your hair, like when you think of your hair moving around, all these like ends down here, it makes sense that they're kind of lighter, right? That's how your hair would be to kind of catch the light better. So you can see in these existing highlights, that's already happening, that the ends of the hair are lightened on both sides. It just looks more natural. So I wanted to point that out, and then I'll do it on this side. So you can kind of see, oh, I'm like navigating you, pre-navigating you to what I'm going to do here. So Susan can take another question and I can kind of live that out on this side.
So what you'll notice is that Siobhan takes, using a large tooth comb, pretty clean sections. It's always much easier if you can work with clean sections. And that's what you see hairdressers do in a salon. So that's a good salon tip. Also, see how she's combing through each section, because if you do that, then obviously you're going to be getting rid of the tangles, and your lightener is going to go much more easily onto the hair. And then when she's painting, see how we start kind of in the middle rather than right up at the root. That gives you the opportunity to come down and to go up, because we're going to be really softly going up and a little bit more heavy-handed on the coming down. So in the middle is about where you want to be starting, because it gives you the opportunity to have the flexibility to be softer on the way up and heavier on the way down. And what she's doing, so it's a bit like playing the violin, actually, Siobhan. I've never thought of it like that before, but it kind of looks like that. Just painting on the top surface of the hair, lightly on the way up and more heavily on the way down. And Siobhan, we've got another question from Facebook Live. Somebody wants to know, how often do you do this? How often do you do the balayage or highlighting, this type of highlighting on your hair?
Mm-hmm.
Great question, actually.
Yeah, that is a really good question. Oh, probably I myself probably do it every few months. Maybe every 4 months or so. I've been doing it a little bit more frequently, actually, just for demos. But honestly, yeah, I would say maybe every 3 or 4 months I'll do a couple pieces just to sort of lighten and brighten. especially because for those of us who do gray coverage, who do roots, I'm constantly bringing that brown root color down, 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 you know, as it grows out. So it's nice to just touch it up a little bit. And I want to say too, you know, when you do the light works, you can this might go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. You can choose how many of these pieces you're going to put in your hair. So right now I'm doing, you know, I'll probably do 4 or 5 on each side. But if you just wanted a little pick me up, try it on, see if I like this, you could absolutely be more light-handed and just do a few pieces to try it on. You know, that's absolutely, and then if you say, oh, I love this, I want to add to it, you can add to it later too.
Well, and that's what I love about this technique, because you can mix up a small amount of your lightener and work with it in that way, so that you can try a little bit, and then it's very buildable. So especially if your hair's darker like mine, you might do it and think, oh, you know what, I can probably be a bit bolder next time. And it absolutely does lend itself to this, because also we're not going straight up to the root, so you don't have to be too precise right up there.
That's right.
It's the type of look where we have the ability to have a darker root, which looks a lot more natural. So Siobhan, how many sections do you think you would do what you're going to do tonight?
Okay, yeah, so usually I'll do 4 big sections or 4 of those like larger diagonal pieces. However, sometimes I'll break them up into slightly smaller chunks. So I'm going to stick with that pattern of going diagonal from the part down and keep pulling them forward. But what you might see me do is take one of these and just divide it into 2, just for easier handling for my hand. But yeah, I'll probably do about 4 panels. And what you do is you just keep, if your hair length will allow it, you just keep pulling forward and painting. And what you'll notice is as you get to these back parts, you don't paint as high because you can't reach back there. But that's the whole point. That's why we have you do it like this with pulling forward, because when these pieces of hair fall to the back, the pieces in the back aren't going to be highlighted up to the top of the crown, which in a balayage natural hand painted method, you wouldn't necessarily be going for anyway. We're not going for highlights all the way up to the root and the crown because it would be more natural for the variation to drop down in the back. So that's kind of what we're emulating here. So I'm going to do a couple more panels on each side, Susan. And excellent. You can totally take more questions while I work along if you would like.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure that we have our time with Alana, because I know that she's got some cool stuff to say.
Oh, absolutely. Go for it.
You know, I think one important point about this is it's almost as important what you leave out as what you actually paint the color on, because with this technique, you actually do need to have dark in order to show up the light. And what that's doing is it's giving you the contrast, and it's the contrast that really gives us that kind of real modern look, that this is not your mum's highlights. It's not your soccer mum's highlights. It's actually something that's very fresh and modern, and something that you'll see on the front of magazines, that beautiful kind of melting look where it's darker through the roots and much lighter and brighter through the ends. And that's really what makes it look very fresh and different, I think. Don't you, Siobhan?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of what separates it from the, I don't know, the highlights that I had always had from, you know, the foil thing, which is still really beautiful on some people. And that's exactly what you need to get light and bright. But if you're interested in just something a little bit more, I think it's a bit more organic feeling, just a little bit more kind of lived in.
Totally. Totally. So talking about fresh and different, I think it might be a good time right now to go to our guest STYLECASTER Deputy Editor, Alana Peden, because Alana, you've got some really interesting stuff to tell us about, haven't you? And I know that we'll... I know I'm on tenterhooks. So let's hear it, honey.
Good evening, everyone. I'm STYLECASTER's Deputy Editor, Alana Peden, and I'm here to talk to you about one of the most fascinating areas, in my opinion, in beauty and skincare that just so happens to make a perfect self-care activity to engage in while you are coloring and waiting for your balayage to develop, which I personally cannot wait to see what Siobhan's results are. I'm fascinated that she's just hand painting this. And it's actually perfect because in the same vein as Siobhan using the Wishbone tool, I am going to walk you through 4 skincare tools that are not your traditional topical products. I will start with the least involved and the most affordable, and end with sort of the biggest commitment that maybe makes the biggest transformation for your buck. And explain how these amazing tools can actually tighten, tone, depuff, sculpt your complexion and your jawline. And at the same time, they genuinely feel amazing. And I know I struggle to find time in my schedule to actually engage in my skincare routine. So I love that I have this opportunity tonight while we're learning about balayage and watching this awesome transformation to actually do my skincare routine. So thank you guys for that. And first things first, whenever I am, finding a moment of self-care, I like to light a candle. So I'm gonna light this one, which smells like lavender, which just relaxes me and gets the spa vibes, the at-home spa going. And then I am going to start out by talking about the gua sha tool. And you might have seen these. You can get them from a variety of stores. They're not too expensive. They're pretty affordable. And they are basically a flat stone. And they are straight out of traditional Chinese medicine. The idea is you use this smooth stone to break up tension from water retention, inflammation, or muscle tension in your face, kind of in the same vein as acupuncture. So it like feels very cooling and soothing when you use it, and it can actually act as a light lymphatic drainage massage, which just, like I said, feels amazing and helps, you feel like you're kind of getting the toxins out. And for this guy, I like to take and start with the curved end and start with my neck, because we always forget our neck. We do our skincare routine and then neglect the neck. And I think the gua sha is a great opportunity to just kind of indulge. And I start here at the bottom and I work my way up to my jawline slowly. And I will do that about 5 times, pausing right when I get to the jawline to apply just a little bit of pressure there. And I like to do that right in the center and then on the other side of my neck. But the cooler and sort of sexier application of the gua sha is taking this little divot here and actually using it to contour your jawline. So I will take this, put it right here, start in the center of my chin and work it up my jawline, ending at this sort of muscle where your jaw meets your ear, and you can actually feel it. And when I get up there, again, I'll apply a little bit of pressure. And for anybody like me who has a very strong jaw, maybe you have TMJ or you grind your teeth, this is an amazing step that actually it feels necessary. You feel the tension just dissipate and it feels awesome, especially if you're somebody in sales or you're talking to people all day. It's so relaxing to hit at that muscle and just relieve that tension. So love the gua sha tool. The second tool that I love, and I'm sure if you're on Instagram or on Facebook, you're gonna see these everywhere, the facial rollers. And these come in all different shapes and sizes, but basically have the same mechanism and technology in that they rely on a cooling plate that rolls over your skin. And these are amazing because they're all about depuffing. And so I like to have a glass of wine and I might wake up with wine face or a salty margarita or just, anything in daily life where you wake up and you feel suddenly like your face is super puffy. And when that happens, I reach for this one, which is really cool and double-ended, and actually has this tiny little roller, which is specifically made to depuff your eye area and get rid of those bags that some of us can get. So I like to start right here in the center of my face, right under my eye, and roll up and out. And it feels awesome and will actually wick away inflammation, water retention, any puffiness that's creating those telltale bags. And a really fun trick with this, any facial roller really, is if you pop it in the freezer, then you're getting double the cooling effect. You're basically getting cryotherapy for free. It's like a 2-for-1. And it's the same sort of effect, like if you use a cool rinse after you wash your hair and it seals a cuticle and adds shine. It's the same thing where just the cold constricts your face and helps you look more sculpted. And if we move on to the sort of more exciting technological end of the spectrum, the microcurrent device. This is amazing because it relies on tiny little electric pulses to tighten your skin. It works instantly and it works cumulatively over time. It will tighten. And I actually, because we had a run through earlier, I did this side of my face. And you might be able to look at my face right now and tell that it looks a little bit tighter and more toned than that side. So we're gonna even out and I will demonstrate on this side of my face. So for this, again, I'm following the jaw. This device will beep when it's done to signal that I move on to the next section of my face. And I will repeat this same motion here, ending at the temple. And that's what really gets you those sort of snatched cheekbones and that natural contour that you don't need makeup for. So if you love your cheeks and you love a blush, you're gonna love the effect that using this tool has on for you. And then lastly, LED light. It is actually adapted from NASA technology that heals wounds and neutralizes inflammation. I have this amazing red light. There's both red light and blue light. Blue light kills bacteria, the kind that causes acne, and is fantastic for anybody who has acneic skin. Red light stimulates fresh collagen production, which is amazing. It does everything from fade hyperpigmentation, acne scars, anything you want to. It softens wrinkles and just stimulates and spurs fresh collagen. So for that one, it's kind of cool. Turns red. Again, there's absolutely no pain involved. It feels like nothing. And you can honestly just close your eyes and relax and wake up to nice, glowing, boosted skin. So that was a quick run through of tools. I honestly have many more in my repertoire, and I'd be happy to show, answer any questions or show you guys around my skincare and my vanity table. Definitely head over to STYLECASTER.com for more on all of the latest skincare tips and tricks.
That's brilliant, Alana. And you're going to hang out with us for a little bit as well, aren't you? Because if we may have people who want to ask questions about skincare.
Certainly.
I love that last one. That's just fantastic. And I think what's wonderful about that is that, obviously today we're showing you guys balayage from the Lightworks kit, but you also are able to do your one color all over, which is obviously if you're going to do gray coverage. And with Madison Reed, what we give you is a cap. So we can cover all of that color. And in the time that you have to kind of sit around and wait, 35, 45 minutes, you've got tons of time to be able to treat yourself below the hairline as well. Doesn't that sound good, Siobhan?
Yeah, it sounds awesome. I was like so meditatively listening to just the kind of wishing that I was doing that. I mean, this is nice too, but that sounded really nice.
So are you done?
Yeah, so I'm basically done. So I brought, we obviously can't see the back of our own heads when we're doing something like this. So if you've got short hair, you're given that little angle brush Susan was showing earlier, and then you can kind of hand paint exactly what you see. And you can just be organic about it. You don't have to be too worried about the sectioning with short hair like a pixie cut. If you've got longer hair, you just keep bringing the pieces to the front and then painting what you can in the diagonal here. Now, here's what's going on with me now. My main sections are in and they're processing. So I'm well on my way. This process is for 40 minutes. So I'm well on my way into that time. In the meantime, though, here's some color in my bowl and a little bit left in my bottle. I would much rather this be in my hair than in my trash. So what I'm going to do is I've got my main pieces in, great, they're cooking. And then I'm just gonna grab the dry parts and I'm gonna softly just lighten the ends of some of those, just to kind of kiss them with some sun and add a little more custom, like randomness to it. So I'm just gonna go in there and double saturate some of those sides to give them a little smooch. And that's it. That's what I'll be working on over here. If you wanna keep, I don't know if we have time for more questions, but
I think we do. I think we do.
cool. Okay.
And I love that little smooch because, you know, when the hair is lightened on its own, it always should be darker at the roots, lighter on the ends. So smooch in the ends is perfect.
I think so.
We have some questions. What I'm going to do is I've got Jill Russell. Jill, I know you've been waiting patiently, my darling. Can I ask to unmute you? And there you are.
Yep. Hello.
Hello.
I was wondering if you can do this with toner or is this just for color?
Oh, what a good idea. So here's the thing. What is toner? What is toner? That's a great question in itself, because what we usually mean by toner, and you may have heard that if you go to salons and you have your hair done at the basin, usually is where toner is applied. Toner is designed to be applied to hair which has already been lightened. And what it will do is it will refine that lightened hair. So usually what happens, and if you're used to having highlights or balayage or doing it yourself, you'll know that when the hair lifts up, it always exposes the natural warmth that's in there. So if you are a brunette, that means orange. If you are a blonde, that means yellow. And those tones are actually not very nice usually. So what we do is we use toner to refine those unwanted tones. So what we're doing there is usually using something that's going to be neutralizing, even if it adds a little bit of warmth, which is what Siobhan's toner does. It will also neutralize out those unwanted tones. So it kind of refines and finishes. Usually if we're using toner, we're going to want to do that directly after we've lightened. So this type of technique is really used more for hair that you're wanting to lighten. If you're wanting to use toner, you would lighten and then use the toner as well. So you can use toner if you've got existing highlights. So say you'd done this and it was maybe 2 weeks later and you'd been in the pool a few times and you've perhaps been to the beach and the toner has washed away. At that point, you would then use something like a color therapy mask to help neutralize out those tones as well. So if you were just putting the toner on the ends, you wouldn't get the full benefit. It's probably better to go ahead and do that all over.
Okay, thank you.
Answer the question, Jill?
Yes.
You've got lovely hair. I can see it.
Yep. Thank you.
Wonderful. So as a reminder, those people who've been waiting patiently, don't worry if we don't get to your question, because we will have an email at the end and you can send your questions to the email. And we're going to have a lucky winner, which I shall announce in a minute. We also have Diane. Diane, are you there? I'm going to ask to unmute you. Hello. I can see you've been so patient. You've been watching all this time very attentively, Diane.
Thank you. Thank you. This is fascinating. I have had a lot of a very horrible experience in coloring my hair over the years, especially when my hair has been chemically straightened. So my question is twofold. One, my natural hair is not processed now. So I would like to know, does this product work for people who have very tightly coiled hair? And also, can those who have chemically straightened their hair use it as well?
Okay, great questions. First of all, the texture of your hair doesn't mean that it's any different at all inside. So if you're going to be lightening hair, you can lighten hair in exactly the same way. If your hair's natural, whether it's curly, straight, wavy, whatever. You might need to alter the technique though. And especially if your hair is very curly, what works well is to, in fact, use this little brush. Here we go. This comes in the shorter hair kit. Because what you're going to probably want to do, where you've got your beautiful curls, you're probably going to want to take those curls and either paint them or use your fingers, which you've seen Siobhan do as she's been working with her hair. And literally, you can leave your hair, don't brush it, don't do anything with it, just leave your hair as you ideally want to wear it, and just literally pick out the bits that you want to see lightened. Probably don't put them all the way down to the root, but kind of halfway along, and literally work that in, and then with your fingers kind of push up. So it's just blending that little bit, and you've got the most of the lightness through the ends of your hair. That's an amazing way to color hair that's curly, because what you can do is do it very visually. So you can actually tailor exactly what you want to see, which is all good. Secondly, chemically straightened hair. It's a pretty harsh process, right?
Yes.
And I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I would recommend that we don't go in there. If your hair is chemically straightened, please don't lighten it yourself. It's something that really needs to be done by a professional, if at all. And I will just put that out there.
No more chemically straightening for me.
No, and
Yes.
you know, if your hair's beautifully textured, why bother? Diane, amazing question, darling. Oh my gosh, I wish we had so much more time. I want to announce our winner. The winner of the Lightworks Madison Reed Balayage kit is Shandy Davis. Shandy, are you there?
Yay!
Yay! Fantastic. Absolutely wonderful. So it's so cool to be able to hang out with you guys. We love doing this, so please keep coming. We love hanging out with our STYLECASTER friends. We love hanging out with all of our community. It's absolutely our favorite thing to do. If you did not get your question answered, please wait for the email at the end. Don't forget that we are going to be having Siobhan's pictures. So you'll be able to see her gorgeous finished results where she will have applied the toner. It's Palmy Warm Honey. Shandy, make sure that you email us and let us know that you are our winner, and we will make sure that you get the perfect Lightworks kit for you, because there's 5 different versions. We will make sure you have the right one. Thanks so much, everyone, for hanging out today. And next Madison Reed House Party is going to be on May 26th. So just because you've been today doesn't mean that you can't come again. So we'll look forward to seeing you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Happy coloring.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.